UNLV is such an interesting school because while they have gone 2-16 in Marcus Arroyo's tenure, in his 2-year tenure, it's a team that has the talent. There is talent there. It's not like this is a team that's hurting for players that can play. And we see that again this year, and it feels like there's a chance for them to improve. It just comes down to whether or not they're able to do that. And when you look at these 10 guys here that lead the way, it's easy to see why there's reason to be excited. I mean, you look at that, you look at their uniforms, there's some excitement around the program, but it just comes down to, can they play? Brennan Scott's going to lead the way here with the 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. He is one of a few linebackers that are going to be exciting to watch for the Rebels this year. Defense is going to be tough in the Mountain West. You really have to be up to the task. And I think that when you're looking at this defense, they're losing a couple key pieces, but a guy like Brennan Scott is going to help make sure that the guys that are coming in, the new faces that are going to play on defense, will be able to step up and meet the standards that they have. Similarly, on the offensive side of the ball, Steve Jenkins is gone. He left in the transfer portal, but that means that Kyle Williams gets another chance to step up. We've seen Williams, what he can do in terms of production over the last couple years. He was freshman of the year when he was a freshman, and last year, 601 yards, averaged 14.3 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. I'm really a big fan of Kyle Williams. I like what he can do on the football field. Even though he's had multiple different quarterbacks throwing him the football, he has been a consistent piece for this offense. He comes back this year, and he's going to be a reliable threat for whoever wins the quarterback job. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, he's had multiple different quarterbacks, which doesn't make it easy for a wide receiver sometimes, but Williams has proven that it doesn't really matter who's throwing him the ball, he's going to be able to catch it. Adam Plant joins Brennan Scott at linebacker, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. This second level is solid for UNLV. I think the thing with UNLV is that they've had either one or two good levels, but the last one just has been lacking. I think that the second and third levels for UNLV this year are going to be decent. It just comes down to depth of those positions and whether or not the front line can get things done. Speaking of that secondary, the next two guys are going to be interesting to talk about. First, Phillip Hill, 46 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, 3 passes defended, and a pick. These safeties for UNLV do a little bit of everything. Now, some of that is out of necessity. Hill is a guy who really had to play all around the field, and a lot of times when your opponent is breaking off big runs, you're kind of mopping up the mess. And sometimes the safeties do that for UNLV, but a lot of times that also means that they're experienced. So when you do finally get a good unit, you can move them around. You can move a guy like Hill around, and then really you're in business from there. Ricky Johnson's a guy that he didn't really do the same thing as Phillip Hill. You know, the 25 tackles don't indicate that he was involved a lot in the run defense, more of that deep safety guy. 3 passes defended and 2 interceptions. He knows what he's doing around the football. When the ball's in the air, he knows how to go up and get it if asked to. Most of the time, he's going to be covering with a corner running with the wide receiver as well, but he is very comfortable in coverage, and he's kind of the opposite, like I said, more of that free safety versus Hill is probably more of the strong safety here. And that gives you a good secondary. That gives you some good balance, and we're not done talking about the secondary. So that's very exciting if you're a UNLV fan. I mentioned before that Jenkins is gone, and while Kyle Williams does get a chance to step up, Zyell Griffin is another guy who gets a chance to do that as well. And you're looking at an offense that if you can't run the ball, at least throwing the ball is going to be a good option for you. Griffin averaged 20.3 yards per catch. Even though it's only on 11 catches, that's explosive potential. And while it might not be sustainable long term, this is still a guy who's capable of doing that. So the numbers are probably going to go down in terms of his averages. However, the more catches he gets, the more chances he gets to showcase his speed, his athleticism, his big playability. And that's something that this offense is going to be excited about. And I think that's going to be huge for whoever wins the quarterback battle. They got some guys that can make plays, and it's just a matter of getting the football in their hands. Cameron Oliver comes in at cornerback, another guy who is comfortable playing with against the football. 33 tackles and 3.5 tackles for loss also indicates that he's comfortable near the line of scrimmage. And that's good because, like I said, this second and third level is going to be solid. The defensive line is going to need to figure out something there, but the secondary and the linebackers have things covered. Cameron Oliver is going to be tested week in and week out. The secondary will. There's a lot of good talent in the Mountain West, and a guy like Oliver is going to be a huge piece in determining whether or not this defense struggles or if they're able to shut teams down for long stretches of time or even just enough to give their offense a chance to score more points. Now, I don't normally include kickers, but again, UNLV really needs to find some depth, and they're going to have to figure that out sooner rather than later. But Daniel Gutierrez, 25 or 25 on extra points, 16 of 18 on field goals. Even if this offense isn't able to punch it in the end zone, they have a guy who can make some field goals, can put points on the board, and sometimes that's really all that you need when it comes to staying in games. So sometimes it's frustrating to get 3 points instead of 7, but it's still better than 0. And if this offense is going to take a step forward, they need to put the ball in the end zone, but they know they have a safety net in their kicker. Harrison Bailey easily could be at the top of this list by the end of the year. When you're looking at him from a recruiting perspective, obviously everybody wanted him. There's a reason why he went to Tennessee. You don't get SEC attention just by being a walk-on. Like they don't take just anybody. You know, they're looking for the best, and obviously things didn't work out. So that leaves some questions in terms of was it a quarterback competition that he just couldn't win because there were guys better than him, or is it going to be that there's something wrong with him? I think that there's potential for him to be really good with UNLV. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that we've seen guys come to UNLV at quarterback and we think, okay, this is the position that they need to be in. They get a chance to be the go-to guy, and then they struggle. We've seen that over the last couple of years too. Harrison Bailey has a chance, and like I said, we've talked about the wide receivers, and we're not done talking about them yet. He has a chance to be the starter, bring this offense to a new level, and with the talent he has returning at receiver, he could have a career season, probably maybe even the best one that we've seen from UNLV's quarterbacks in a while. Ricky White was an underrated addition in the transfer portal. He didn't see any time last year at Michigan State, but in 2020, he had 10 catches and averaged 22.3 yards per catch. Again, this goes back to that Zyell Griffin kind of syndrome that we talked about with that situation. When you average 20 yards a catch, that's some serious damage per catch. Now, the question is, can you do that long term? 11 catches or 10 catches, either one of those, you're not really getting a good indication of whether or not that's what they can do consistently, or if those are kind of just they broke coverage and whatever. I think that both Ricky White and Zyell Griffin have explosive potential. You're really getting some good value in the transfer portal. It just comes down to, can he stay on the field and whether or not he can keep that number up. Now, 22 yards per catch is pretty astronomical, so it's probably going to go down this year, but this is still a guy on an offense that has the potential to be really good. And if these receivers live up to their expectations and Harrison Bailey is as good as advertised, you're looking at a UNLV team that might be a surprise team in the Mountain West this year.